got into this coffee roasting business. And when I first started, I knew nothing about coffee. And to make matters worse, when in one of the interviews from National Geographic, they came and they were interviewing me, and the first thing they want to hear is like, oh, so what's your relationship with the coffee? Did you fall in love with the coffee? I started off by saying I hated coffee. When I first started my company, I hated coffee. I didn't like coffee. But the thing that was really driving me was the driving forces behind starting a coffee company was a lot of things. One is not to entirely depend on our government economy. As you all know by now, we are like almost 99.9% government economy dependent. Our co-speaker earlier mentioned how, in terms of ratio, Nagaland has the highest number of government employees, and we have more than 60+% of our budget used in paying salaries, which is weird. And so I really didn't want to depend on the government economy. Rather, we should be creating wealth for our nation. And when I started back in 2014 and 15, 13 years back, the younger one, my peer group, older one, every single person you meet and talk to, they would say that without the government's help, you cannot do anything. I did my own self-research personally, and I found out that yes, almost, especially in Kohima, we are like 95% plus government economy dependent, because the farmers are waiting for subsidies from the government. The business community, they are waiting for subsidies from the government. Politicians, obviously, they are under the government. So again, they'll have to wait for the government funding. Contractors are waiting for government fund allocation. And what else? And the rest of us who don't work with the government are, like children and a few others, are waiting for our parents who will get their salary from the government at the end of the month, which makes us almost 95 to 99% of our denizens in Kohima, depending on the government economy. The question is, who will create the money for our nation? I don't want to go very detailed in this, but if you look at our global economy and world economy, how comes Indian government is not printing a lot of money so that we all have a lot of money? At this question, I want to leave it to you. You do your own homework, right? If you print a lot of money, the value will go down. Inflation happens. So there's no point printing money. The only way for our currency to have a stronger value is not in the currency, but in the economy, the wealth that we build for our nation. So the question is, how comes in Nagaland we are only taking money from the sender, and we conveniently say that, oh, sender will send the money. The government will give us the money. So convenient. But the question is, who puts the money in the nation's exchequer for our government missionaries and the people in planning, people in finances? How comes they are able to draw that money and give it to us? It's because there is money in our national and state's exchequer. But the question is, who puts the money here? They are in the form of taxes accrued from the private sector. That was like an eye-opener for me. That means you and I need to create a lot of job, a lot of wealth, and then we put the money in the state's exchequer. That will be used to support the government servants, to support all kind of, even our national military defense and other allocation we need to make, development of roads and energy and water and you name it, everything will come from there. And how comes in Nagaland, every single person that meets you and you tell them, in Nagamese, pai apni ki kuri ase? I work business kuri ase. Oh, okay, ho jalo. Chalda hai, it's okay, these days though chalda hai. No, it is not merely okay. It is the prerequisite for our nation's growth. Because if we don't create wealth and we don't put money in the nation's exchequer, then how will we run the government in itself? How will we bring development? And for this reason, I wanted to move out of the government sector, and I made a promise not to take help from my parents, which was very easy because my parents didn't have money. And I didn't want to take any help from the government, cash, kind, or even word of mouth. And it sounds arrogant, but seriously, no. It simply meant this. If I today stand in front of you and tell you that I took help from the government funded me everything, I didn't have to do anything, and the government waived off all my loan debts, then you'll be like, oh, maybe he's also another lucky guy. His daddy must be a government officer, or uncle works in that office, maybe some politician connection, or whatever you would say, right? So I wanted to prove it wrong for all the Naga brothers and sisters and everyone living in Nagaland that without the help of the government, loans from bank, support from family, you can still build a business that is not simply surviving, but also thriving. So I started this business. I'm sorry I took long, but I started this business using 6,400 rupees in my kitchen apartment. I left my day job with the government. I left my photography work. I just got married, the worst case scenario. When I went to marry my wife, I said I work with the government. That's how I got my wife. A few months later, I left that job, which is cheating, right? But I'm so always therefore grateful to my father-in-law who gave me the permission to say, yes, you can go ahead, leave whatever job you have and start this business. My wife was there to support me. And so I started off with 6,400 rupees. 8 years later, without any support from anyone, any external funding agencies, we clocked a revenue of 3.85 crores after 8 years. That is a shortest background story of ETE Coffee. Thank you.
Sir, your journey was truly amazing, and I hope that your journey really inspire our young entrepreneurs of NCC and other Naga youths as well. So, sir, the next question I would like to ask you is, can you kindly brief about your journey from starting with just 6,400 to building a 3.85 crore business with just external fundings?
Okay, so the question is this: can you make money without money? And you know, our respected previous speaker have clearly made it a point. It takes your idea and whatever tool you have in your hands. And so, you know, I remember in 2018, I stood in this same podium here and I spoke here. It's on YouTube. And I said, and I still stand the same, if you cannot make money without money, even if you have a lot of money, you will never be able to make money. Right. Yes, it is. Trust me. And my mom was the one who proved it to me. My mom, back in the early 90s, of course, early 90s in Wokal was crazy. A lot of war, a lot of killing, a lot of grenade explosion, a lot of violation and infringement of human rights that took place in the 90s, unfortunately. And yet, in the midst of all those chaos, my mom, she taught me how to make money without money. So whenever we run out of money, this is what happens. My mom took all three of our siblings, gave us empty baskets, and we go to Mahajan, to the grocery store Malik, and my mom would ask, how much do you get this from the agency? At what price do you get? So we get a list of that, and then we went up to Woka Assam Rifle canteen, and then go and ask the list of the item at what price we will get. And it turns out that supply from Assam Rifle canteen was cheaper than the agency price. So my mom goes back to this Mahajan and says, if you give me the cash, I'll bring your product cheaper than the agency price. And yet in between there was a margin and we made a lot of money. And it was my mom who first taught me, you don't need to have money to make money. All you have is an idea, a little research. And with this philosophy stay with me. And so now I'm jobless. I left my day job with the government. The most lucrative business I had, photography, which could earn me 1.6 lakhs in a week back then. I left all of those, but I wanted to create something. But of course, the journey is not that easy. So how I started, I'll tell you. First off, I didn't like coffee. Second of all, I didn't know how to make coffee. And I was desperately looking for some tutorial on YouTube, but it was fairly new. Instagram was new, Facebook was new, YouTube, there was hardly any content on coffee. So I would just burn the coffee, black and oily, and once it turns black and oily, I pull out. Actually, you know what? You should not roast your coffee beyond 15 minutes. I didn't know that. So I made a horrible coffee and I sold it to Hall of India. I owe a big apology to the rest of India. That was horrible coffee. And how I did was, I call it NR technology, because whenever I go to events and national events, small little events, wherever I go, they ask me, what kind of technology did you use to start your coffee company, especially the roasting business? I would say I used a very fancy technology called NR technology when I first started my company. And so they asked me, I remember the NetGeo guy asked me the same thing, what is NR technology? They were very curious. NR technology sounds really fancy and very advanced. I said NR stands for in Lota Ngas Repen, which means dry fish burner. Because literally I was using the small Tagapen spice roaster, which we normally use to burn the michingaguti. Our friends will know, and you put it in your fish curry. So I used that spice roaster to roast the coffee in my kitchen apartment, and I would ship pan-India. I was the delivery guy myself. I used a very inexpensive, rather free website called Wix.com to launch it pan-India shipping. And I also got free payment gateways, because those days PayPal and a few others were really expensive. But InstaMojo was a new startup that just came in, and I just used their platform for my payment gateways. And that was all free again. And we get the payment in just 2 to 3 days. So I used those free technology that was in my disposal. And Wix.com is as such, even a layperson can just click like me. I know nothing about programming. And I started my website that way. And I would put my computer volume full on so that any corner of my house I can hear if there's anyone logging into my website. And I will give them, live chat on my website. And so the idea is, people across India thought this must be a big company with back-end office and many support team going on. But it was just me in a vest and a boxer running around from my kitchen to my computer table. And so I would roast myself, I would package it, and I would go to India Post myself, and I will ship it for free. And the shipping cost was 140 rupees. My MRP coffee package MRP was 75 rupees, which means I was running at loss. But here's what I did. I will just end with this maybe. Here's what I did. I used one weakness of us Nagas, and probably even India as a whole. India have this thing called inferiority complex without even realizing. We think that Western world means better than us. Gore Jehera means much more supreme than us. So if they never come and ask you, how are you doing? What's your business model looking like? How is your business? They never ask that. They would say, do you send outside? Do you send abroad? If I say yes, Pakka, this is a good product. So I use the weakness of our Naga people, and I ship pan-India. I ship to, I remember, Philippines, Singapore, Denmark. New Zealand was very difficult. It got rejected several times because their phytosanitary measures are crazy, but a bunch of other countries. And so whenever people ask me, I say, yeah, we're selling abroad. All over India for free. And so that's how people here locally gain my trust. Coffee to so I gained my first traction using that technique. And I later found out that the Amazon owner, the founder himself uses the same technique even till today. They call it calculated loss. So they know that this year we're gonna spend $1.2 billion just wasted. Like how when you return our package, they're not for free, guys. And they know they're gonna waste it. But because you can return, you keep going and keep buying, and that's how you surpass your losses, right? I didn't know that, but I was using that one. And so that's how I get my first traction and I built my business. Moving on from there, I borrowed my wife's oven and I started roasting from there, which I actually gifted to her as a birthday gift. I took back, burned it, smoked it, black and blue, beyond recognition. And after 2 years only, we bought our first commercial roasting machine and went on. And today we are using, by God's grace, a German roasting machine. We are using Kiwi New Zealand roasting machine for our laboratory and things like that. Yeah. That's long, right? So sorry, I can't keep it short.
Sorry, sir. So, my next question would be, sir, starting at challenges would always be difficult, will always come with challenges. What were some of the biggest obstacles you find in those days?
Those days and even now, I think you would agree with me, the biggest challenge is our society pressure. Right? If you're not working with the government, you're not doing any job. Right? It took so long for my parents to, have this idea that I am in my office. Of course, it took me about 5 or 6 years. It took me about 5 or 6 years until I had my own office. And later, even after 5, 6 years, my mom calls me and I said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in the office." She would say, "Which department?" I mean, like, a private sector cannot have an office, right? That's our idea. That's a kind of, without even realizing, it's working in the background. You're a CEO, it doesn't matter. You have an office, it doesn't matter. You have hundreds of people working under you, it doesn't matter. Even if you're a sweeper, it has got to be government, That's the kind of mentality we had, and sadly, we still have it. So that's the biggest challenge we had. So in my case, I just got married. I just left my day job with the government. I just left my business, and to start off with zero, that was the biggest challenge. And I figured the biggest pressure, the biggest enemy is your loved ones. And if I tell you this, you'll be like, "Oh yeah, my dad is a horrible person." No, wait. Okay, your dad is still the best person in the world. Your mom is still the best person in the world. All they are doing is they can't afford to watch you fail. And that's the reason why they want you to get a job that is much more secure. At least that's what they think, okay? So out of sheer love, they are doing this. So the question is now, how do we overcome this? How I overcame was very simple. At least I had a lot of, dealing to do with my mom more than my dad. My dad kind of, it's okay for boys somehow, even if they grow old, same old wild boy thing in them. They say, "Jalo, it's okay, go ahead." But moms, they are very, they're not saying they're weak-willed, but emotionally they can be very weak as well. So even after marriage, my mom came and stayed with me for 2 weeks, crying and telling me not to leave the job with the government. And how I convinced them is this. I didn't do the convincing that day. It was 7 years ago. I picked up the camera and I started shooting, taking pictures. Not that one, this one. And when I got into photography, I did my research, I did my studies, much more than my metrics, my bachelor's degree. I studied like crazy, physics and everything, focal length, how the magnetic field interference causes those pixelation in your image. I studied everything so much that actually I was even teaching in schools. I was formally teaching in a couple of schools. Northfield is one that I went to teach. I was doing that. And I started taking picture, and the first payment I got is this. I went for a wedding and I took a picture, and that client, they said like, here is your little payment, just like Naga style, no? Like folding the hand like that. They gave me like this. I said, no, 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 no. I love photography. So Naga, this is our problem, okay? We don't know how to deal with money. We don't know how to honor ourselves. Our effort that we put, we don't know. We need to know, learn how to appreciate money, respect money, because at the end of the day, it's the money, right, that will take you to hospital, that will help you do good work. But I said, no, 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 so Naga. And I'm like, it's okay, it's okay. And so, yeah, Hachago, thank you, bro, so much. And when the person was exiting, he threw the money in my kitchen and ran away. That's how I got my first payment. And so I gave that money to my mom, and I said, you buy a mekhala suit with this money. And I went for another wedding, I got money, and I gave my mom, please pray for me. She can't say no, although she don't like my idea of taking pictures and earning money, but she can't help, right? Because I'm saying pray for me. And I started earning 45,000 rupees per wedding. And I give it to my mom and say, pray for me, and you keep it. And in a week, I can take 4 weddings, 45,000 rupees into 4 times. I give it to her, and I say, buy a mekhala suit. Pray for me. Went on and on. For days, for months, for years. It went for 7 years, and my business was only growing. I had about 25,000 followers in 2013 on my Facebook page. And still have got 24,000 followers there. And so my mom kind of knew that this fellow, if he do something, he really give his whole heart, mind, and soul into it. My mom called me main master. Detailed in small little, being focused on small little details. So I kind of knew that my mom was convinced somewhere deep down her heart that this fellow, whatever he do, he will give his 100%, all in or all out. He will make it work somehow. So my message to us younger friends today here would be this. You might be thinking that your mom calls you on your way back from your college and says, hey, can you please grab 1 kilo of potato on your way? And I've already made the payment, GPay, to the owner. Can you please grab that one? You know what? You reach home and you say, I forgot, conveniently. Yeah? Your mom tells you, can you please keep that bucket there? And you forget. Small little things, your parents are now accumulating the mistrust over you, that they cannot count on you, that you're not reliable, that you're not responsible. A person who cannot even make his own bed when you get up, how can you expect that person to get into a business and burn the family wealth? Borrow a lot of money from your mom and dad and you start a business. So even as I share my story, I want you to know that you need to start building trust. And so yeah, that's society's pressure and your close relatives, your family, your girlfriend, your wife, your mom and dad, that could be your biggest problem, but that's not the biggest problem. You just have to put some value on the table and it should work. She is smiling, I don't know, I spoke too long, whatever is the reason. Like, yeah.
Sir, now that you're so much successful in life, I would like to ask you another question regarding that. What is the one mindset or habit that you believe is essential for success in entrepreneurship?
Conventionally, you can have many ideas about this one, but for me, I think not to worry about others and just mind your own business. Seriously, because we are so bogged down by how others are doing so well, and we just focus on chasing those. They're also doing this, so we also do this one, and in the process, we kill ourselves. To a point where we even start to vilify each other. We say bad thing about each other, like for instance, that coffee roasting company is good, but somewhere it's not good. I tend to speak like that so that to prove my worth, that I'm better than those roasters. I do that sometimes. We are better than Naga roasters. We are better than the Italian coffee roasters. Of course, that's the truth, but I don't have to say it. You know what I'm saying? We have to let somebody down for us to look good. Don't do that. That is pointless. For the longest time, I've also been a victim of this. For us, it's like, if you are less richer than me, that makes me the richest man among the two of us, right? That has been my idea, and that has been our Naga's idea. probably the whole of India. But we never think of, okay, she have 10 lakhs, my goal should be 12 lakhs. Rather, how can I bring her down that she have only 2 lakhs? So that I have 3 lakhs, but turns out I'm 1 lakh richer than her. So our mindset should be really, I'm a Christian and I'm a believer of the Word of God. It's very clear in Philippians, if you read chapter 2, verses 4, it speaks of, do not do anything, say anything in vain conceit. Always seek the interest of others. That is the teaching we get from the Bible too. And if you do that, it just works on your side. And so, now left to you, let our mindset be fixed on something much. Let's come up from the past idea of how we are second to others. If I can make it look like Starbucks, then yay, I'm good, I'm happy. My phone is my interface is looking like an Apple, I'm happy. We are so happy that we, in coffee industry currently, my coffee is meeting the standard of the European. I'm so happy. We never think of creating our own standard that is as good as the European or even better than the European. And for this same reason, in my business, left to me, I would spend my whole life, every single, down to the last penny, on research and innovation. Even if I don't make money, it doesn't matter. Left to me, seriously. So ever since we started our coffee business, it's been 6.5 years, we are invested in our self-research. We invest in our coffee laboratory services, because only in the quality, only in the research, only in those innovations that are three things, guys, that are documentable, that are repeatable, and that are transferable. And our director, Nailit, would agree with me that this is when the technology will beautifully merge into whatever we do. We should be able to document them, we should be able to repeat them, we should be able to transfer, because that's the only way to make corrective measure, improvise, move on, keep on learning from there on. But we are so creative in music, in art, even the way we do public services, leadership, village council, beautiful church programs. We are so naturally gifted in organizing events and so many things, hospitable, food, but none of them can be documentable, repeatable, and transferable. And so we are losing it. And so that's where my mindset, I think I'll be more focused on those rather than just minding others' business. I know it's a little unconventional way of addressing your question, but that's how I would take it.
Moving to our last question, sir. What message or vision would you like to share with the Naga youth who aspire to become entrepreneurs?
Okay, right, okay. So, the vision for Nagas, I think I'm going to carry forward from what I earlier mentioned about seeking the interest of others. And this is important because even if you look at the practical aspects of any kind of business, even like mine, all we need now is an ecosystem. You'd be surprised to know in China there are cities that are meant only to build only certain parts of an electronic component. Cities like that. And microchip means like a whole city does only that one. So it is so easy. They don't have to spend their time waiting for weeks to assemble that one to ship it abroad. It's right there, next door. They don't have to pay a single penny on the shipping cost. And so it's quick, it's cost effective, and the service gets 1,000 times better. And in Nagaland, we lack this. Horribly, we lack this. Even after 10 years of our service, unfortunately, because some of our coffee products, we rely on Japanese technology. The simple tear it and hang it on your cup and pour the coffee on it, those are Japanese technology. So it has to come from outside. And just to put a an envelope on that. It has to be manufactured in Gujarat and in Bombay. We'll have to wait for them. We don't have an ecosystem here. And so it's not just the coffee industry at the end of the day, the furniture guys who will build our cafes, the milk who will be using to brew in our coffee shops, and all this packaging material that we need to have. We are seriously lacking in all this basic ecosystem, my friends. And so I want to really encourage you to think about, give a thought to this one. And in any kind of vocation, profession that you get in, please remember, this generation that we live right now is not simply another profession, nothing else, nothing more than a responsibility for the future generation of the Nagas and even for the rest of India. Why I say this? Today, I always proudly talk about my Swiss watches that I wear. I have a couple of them. One of them is already 209 years old. This is a 93 years old Swiss watch from Fabeluba, the second oldest watch company in the world. And today, if any white guy, European guy, come and sell a watch to you, you ask the guy, sir, where are you from? And he says, I'm from Switzerland. You would just buy it because Swiss means like watch. And how did they make it? In Geneva, every single nook and corner turn of the cities, watch lab, watch school. Not showrooms, guys. Laboratories and schools and research centers. Same thing with the Japanese. I can go on forever with Japan thing again. In 1883, when the American warship showed up in the Japanese shore, they had to yield to the American way of opening the port for the Americans to do whatever they want to do, because the Japanese were so laid back and they were so proud of their culture, their Edo period for 263 years. They thought they have got the finest army, naval power, medicine, hygiene, education, social system, you name it, they've got one of the finest one, and they were so complacent. So I borrowed this word complacent from our respected speaker. And when the American warship showed up, they realized under this Matthew Berry, who was leading the US Navy at that time, the Japanese realized this American warship could wipe out the entire Japan, not days, but in just overnight time. And so it took just one person, Meiji, the emperor, who said, no, we have to wake up, we need to do something. We need to reform this one. So they brought people from Ireland, from Europe, from USA, professors and scientists. They paid a huge amount of money to bring them in, which is against their values. They hated bringing people from outside. They called them gajins, right? An outsider. They hated them. And if any Japanese go and live outside, live outside, they are excommunicated, or it's like a treason. It's a betrayal to your nation. That was the kind of Japan they lived. And so he had to denounce all of them. No more gadanas and walking in the street. Samurai was all dismantled. Shogunate was all dismantled. And he said, we will reform Japan again and make it great again. And that's when the samurais and shogunates and many others, they revolted. But now he has the Western technology, wiped them out, subdued them, and brought about transformation. In just less than 3 decades, they went and provoked the USSR Navy. At the time, USSR Navy was one of the most powerful ones. And of all the Navy ships, warships, one particular warship was so enormous, formidable, very powerful. And yet they went and destroyed that one. Just click, destroyed. And so the Russians were so infuriated, and they had a close tie with the Germans in the European Union. They said, these yellow monkeys are mocking us. Let's declare war and wipe them out from the surface of this earth. You know what? It took took them 7 months and 13 days for the Japanese to wipe out entire USSR. And that was the day the European Union said, these are no more yellow monkeys. They will write the history of the humankind. It took just one person. Is it you today in this room? It took just one person to reform. And so, for me, you know, even after the Japanese had so many ups and downs, and after the war, made in Japan was so plasticky, nobody wants to buy after 1940s war. Nobody wants to buy made in Japan. It's like made in China, people laugh at them. They were copycats, they were duplicates, nobody wanted. But Sony, the music sound manufacturer, they came and they said, we will make Japan great again. And Toyota came and they will make Japan great again. And so the Japanese government, for the third time when the Honda came and said, we will also make cars, motors. The Japanese government said, we already have enough. This is the beauty of the Japanese government. They own these private sectors and call them our nation's own asset. It's like, we have already one, why do we need one more? But then they just went on. And when they create this time, they didn't want to create anything that will be shiny and glamorous, but that would last forever. Having Steve Jobs of Apple to say that if there is any one race of people on this earth who will, without spending a single penny, sell a lot of product, single penny on marketing, sell a lot of product, it is the Japanese. They make their product work like for ages. Japanese car never gets spoiled. That's the kind of Japan they reform. It took them so many years. And so you see today, if you say there is some gadget coming from Japan, you just buy it. It's a watch from Swiss, you just buy it. Food by some pastries by some French chef, you just buy it. But if it is a watch made by a Naga brother, you'll be like, bro, I hope I'll reach home, right? On time. I don't want a divorce from my wife. Will the watch work? That's the kind of trust we have built for ourselves. A low quality human we have created for ourselves. We need to specialize. We need to invest what I call catapult theory. Invest backward first. Invest on machines that doesn't make money first. That's the whole idea about the whole technology and AI. It doesn't look like it's going to make you money, but you are working in the background so that things get catapult very far. And so, to end our whole conversation, we want, and I want, it's my dream, it's our vision for our Naga youth, to make Nagas the brand in itself, Indians the brand in itself. I'm in the coffee industry. Indian coffee. Indians were the first one to ever grow coffee outside the Arab world. And we are one of the largest producing countries in the world even till today. And if you travel around the world, they know Indian coffee, they don't know Indians. If a great Indian coffee is brewed by an Indian, they wouldn't pay. But a great Indian coffee is brewed by an Italian or a Swiss or Japanese, they will pay. What have we done to our people? Our products are more famous than us Indians. So we need to make people the brand. The only way to do that is invest in the brain resource, innovation, and infrastructures that necessarily don't make money by evening. And if we are able to do that, we will make ourselves the brand. So that one day, 100 years later, by virtue of you being born from an Indian family, you being born from a Naga family, you will inherit the blessings of their forefather. How? Because when you go out and you say we want to build an alliance, we want to start up a business here in your country, in New York, in Milano, in Tokyo, they will say, where are you from? We will say, we are from Nagaland, we are Nagas. Or we will say, we are Indians. Oh, these are Nagas. They are very good in coffee. They are good in music. They are good in administration. They are good in everything. Build an alliance, build partnership, invest in them, give them the opportunity because they will bring wealth for our nation. So, what happens 100 years later? These people, next generation, by virtue of being born from a Naga family, from an Indian family, they will inherit $1 billion, and they will look back 100 years later and they will thank their forefather. And you and I today, we are that forefather. Every time I talk about this one, it gives me goosebumps. It is therefore a big responsibility, it is a fight, and therefore let us wake up from our slumber, our lackadaisical attitude, our sluggishness and complacencies, and look forward in building a well that lasts, that is generational, not just for ourselves, but a few generations to come. The well, and the greatest well, lesson taught to us Nagas, is our own forefather who used to throw this feast of merit. Once a person becomes rich, they only give out everything. So probably Nagas were one of the finest entrepreneurs in the world some 1,000 years ago. Finest in the sense of a humanitarian way, where a man is known not by how much he has, but by how much he gives. And so with that, I want to really appreciate and thank. It was a lovely session. I didn't let you talk much, but thank you for the lovely calls, and thank you to our brigadier sir and colonel and many officers and all the cadets who have done this lovely job for all of us to come and speak to you. Thank you. God bless. Jai Hind.
That's really inspiring, sir. A valuable lesson for inspiring entrepreneurs. Thank you so much, Mr. Lee Chan-hoon, sir, for sharing your inspiring journey and valuable insight with us today. Your story shows passion, perseverance, and vision can create something truly meaningful. Thank you to everyone for joining today's live podcast session. We hope today's session has inspired many of us to earn our own ideas and dreams. Have a wonderful day, and we hope that more such engaging conversations in the future. Thank you, Jai Hind and Jai Bharat.